A 4.2% savings account sounds great, until you realize a 3.7% Treasury bill actually puts more money in your pocket. In 15+ states, the worst rate wins. We did the math on every cash option available right now, and the results are going to change how you think about where to park your money. Here's the question: you've got cash sitting around, emergency fund, down payment savings, maybe you're between investments, and you want the best possible return without taking on real risk. Your three options in 2026 are high-yield savings accounts, Treasury bills, and CDs. HYSAs are paying 4.2% APY at the top end. T-bills are yielding around 3.7%. And CDs range from about 4.15% for 1 year to 4.34% if you lock in for 5 years. On the surface, this looks like an easy decision. HYSAs win on rate and liquidity. But that surface-level comparison ignores three critical variables: taxes, rate lock risk, and access. We built a full comparison matrix scoring all three across 5 dimensions, and the optimal choice depends heavily on which state you live in and what your tax bracket is. Let's walk through it. First, let's set the stage on where rates actually are right now. The Fed funds rate sits at 3.5 to 3.75%, and markets are pricing in at most one more cut in 2026. So we're in a relatively stable rate environment. For high-yield savings accounts, the top mainstream rate is 4.21% APY. That's from the usual suspects like Marcus, Ally, and Discover. There are conditional offers up to 5% from Varo, but those require specific spending and deposit thresholds. So we're going to use 4.2 as our baseline. Treasury bills are clustered tightly, 3.68 to 3.71% across maturities from 4 weeks to 1 year. And CDs, 1-year terms sit around 4.15%. No penalty options are at 3.95. And if you're willing to lock up $50,000 for 5 years, you can get 4.34. Now here's the number that should bother you. The average savings account at a big bank pays 0.39%. If you have $10,000 in a regular savings account instead of a high-yield one, you're leaving roughly $400 a year on the table. Step 1 for everyone watching: if you haven't moved to a high-yield option yet, that's the single biggest improvement you can make today. Now here's where it gets interesting. Treasury bills are exempt from state and local income tax. HYSA interest and CD interest are not. They're taxed at both federal and state levels. This seems like a footnote, but it completely reshapes the comparison in high-tax states. Let's run the numbers. Take someone in the 24% federal tax bracket. In a state with no income tax, Texas, Florida, Nevada, a 4.2% HYSA nets you 3.19% after federal tax. A 3.7% T-bill nets you 2.81%. HYSA wins clearly, about 38 basis points more. No contest. But now let's move to California, where the state tax rate at this bracket is around 9.3%. That HYSA's effective after-tax yield drops to 2.63% because you're paying both federal and state tax on every dollar of interest. The T-bill still 2.81% because California can't touch it. The T-bill now wins by 18 basis points despite having a lower nominal rate. That's the equivalent of getting a free rate bump just by choosing the right instrument. And California isn't some edge case. This math works in every state with income tax above roughly 7.5 to 10.5%, depending on your federal bracket. That covers New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Minnesota, and about 10 other states. We calculated the breakeven state tax rate, and the formula is straightforward. Take the difference between the HYSA rate and the T-bill rate, divide by the HYSA rate after federal tax, and that's your threshold. Above it, T-bills win. Below it, HYSA wins. Let's score all three options across the 5 things that actually matter for cash. Liquidity: HYSA gets a 10 out of 10, instant access, no penalties. T-bills get a 7, you can sell on the secondary market before maturity, but there's a small bid-ask spread. CDs get a 4, early withdrawal penalties typically eat 60 to 90 days of interest. though no penalty CDs bump that to an 8. Tax efficiency, T-bills win in any state with income tax. In a zero-tax state, it's a tie between all three. FDIC and safety. HYSAs and CDs are FDIC, insured up to $250,000 per depositor per bank. T-bills are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, arguably the safest asset on earth. All three score a 10 here. Rate lock risk, this is where CDs get dangerous. If you lock a one-year CD at 4.15% and the Fed unexpectedly raises rates, you're stuck. HYSAs adjust with the market. T-bills, because they're short duration, 4 to 26 weeks, reprice frequently. And with Powell's term expiring May 15th, there's a real wildcard in rate policy ahead. HYSA and short-term T-bills handle that uncertainty best. Minimum investment, HYSAs have no minimum. T-bills require a $100 minimum on Treasury Direct. Some top CDs require $50,000. Advantage HYSA for accessibility. So here's the decision framework. If you live in a no-income tax state, Texas, Florida, Wyoming, and the rest, your best bet is a high-yield savings account at 4.2%. It's the highest after-tax yield with full liquidity. If you're in a high-tax state, California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, and you're in the 22% federal bracket or above, Treasury bills likely beat HYSAs on after-tax yield. Run your specific numbers using the breakeven formula, but for most people in these states, a T-bill ladder through Treasury Direct is the move for any cash you don't need instant access to. CDs, they only make sense in one scenario. You believe rates are about to fall and you want to lock in today's yield for multiple years. The 5-year at 4.34% is genuinely attractive if you're convinced the Fed cuts aggressively. But if you're wrong, you've trapped your money at a below-market rate. The no-penalty CD at 3.95 is the sleeper pick here. It's a free option on falling rates with no downside if you need to exit early. For most people, the optimal setup is your emergency fund in a HYSA for instant access, and any cash beyond that allocated to T-bills or a no-penalty CD, depending on your state tax situation. That simple split could net you hundreds of dollars more per year on the same pile of cash. If you want to see how this compares to just investing that cash in an index fund instead, check out our video on the real cost of holding cash. Links on screen now.